So I just got a new stepmom, and she's 6 years older than me. That's right, we're basically siblings. Well, that's not where this story starts. Oh no, it starts by her manipulation and the fact that she tried to keep me out of my own father's funeral. So you know what I decide to do to her? Hey guys, I'm 22, I'm male, and I never would have thought that I would be posting in this area. But here I am. As much as I wanted to consult a family member about what happened, well, I could not really trust most of them right now. Don't worry, I'll tell you why in just a bit. Let's begin why I'm even writing this in the first place. My father, he's 56, but he just recently passed away, and my stepmother, let's call her Charlotte, 27, would not let me enter the funeral home. Before I delve into what happened, allow me to share a bit of information about my family. Dad, he grew up poor, so he had to work hard to support his siblings and his parents. My dad came from a poor family. He started his own company when he was in his 20s, and he grew it into one of the most successful companies in the country. He was also a loving husband and a great father. He married my mother when they were both young, and they had me just a few years later. Mother was beside him as his rose to the top, and it became the successful man that he was to this day. Well, we were the perfect family until my mom got sick. She had cancer, and despite all the treatments and money, she could not beat it. Even with all the money in the world, we simply could not save her. She passed away when I was 15 years of age. He never really recovered from the loss of her, and he did not date anyone for years as he was too buried deep into his work, which became his coping mechanism and fortunately made his business flourish even more. Because of father's success, we got to know how most of our family and friends were greedy and selfish, as they only came to him when they wanted something. That's why I was so surprised when he told me last year that he was in a relationship with somebody new. He said that he had fallen in love with his secretary and that he was going to marry her. Apparently, they've been a couple for a month and they decided to tie the knot as father was not getting any younger, you know. Of course, I was happy for him, but I was also skeptical when I found out that his secretary, yeah, you guessed it right, was Charlotte, who's only 5 years older than me. I mean, she was 27 and father was 51 when they got married. That's a 24-year-old age gap, for God's sake. So I thought that Charlotte was nothing but a gold digger, especially since she was very eager to get married to my father. I mean, who in their right mind would want to get married after just dating somebody for 30 days? I did not have a chance to meet her before the wedding, because like what I just said, I was studying abroad, and everything in their relationship was pretty fast. I only saw her in pictures, videos, and video calls, and she looked pretty young. Well, she had this long black hair, beautiful brown eyes, and a curvy figure. She even smiled a lot. She seemed to make my father very, very happy, but I still had my doubts about her. I wondered if she really loved him, or if she was after his money. I mean, that age gap is absolutely ridiculous. She can pose as my father's daughter. Also, that's why I just called her by her first name, because, guys, can you imagine how awkward it felt calling her mother, mom, mommy, or whatever, because we might as well look like siblings because of our age. After the marriage, I did not have much contact with Charlotte, and since I was studying abroad, I could not really see how she was as a wife or a mother. Also, I did not get to see her in person until I came home for the holidays. I was not expecting anything nice from her, but she was actually nice and friendly. At first, everything was awkward, because I swear we really look like the same age. But she made the first move. She greeted me warmly, she hugged me and said that she was glad to finally meet me, and she hoped that we could get along. Maybe I was unintentionally giving the impression that I was skeptical of the relationship at the time, but out of the blue she said how she really loved my dad very much. She wanted to make him happy. Every time I was home, she treated me with respect and kindness, and she did not act like Cinderella's stepmom. She cooked for me, bought me gifts, and tried to bond with me. And she even asked me about my studies and hobbies like she was really interested in getting to know me. She seemed genuine and sincere, and I started to warm up to her. I thought that maybe I was wrong about her, and that maybe she was really a good person. That's what I thought until the funeral. Father, He was happy to see us getting along, and he thanked me for giving her a chance because he was happy with Charlotte and that she was the best thing ever to him. Getting along is a huge deal for him, for me and her to get along. He said that she made him feel alive again, and so he wanted to spend the rest of his days with her. He looked happy and content, and I was happy for him. I thought that maybe he had found his second chance at love, and that maybe we could be a happy family. Until his death 2 months after they got married. The relationship, as I guess you could say, was short-lived. Going back, you might be wondering why I wasn't there when he died. Well, I was studying overseas, and for the first 2 years in college, I had not had the chance to stay for a long time back home because I got pretty active in the university. Of course, I made sure to come home during holidays or very special celebrations, but other than that, I was on a campus doing all sorts of things. Then, these past 2 years, I don't know, the campus just felt like home. And going back to my hometown felt miserable. Don't get me wrong, guys, I do love my hometown. It's just that the campus just weighs more in my heart now. Also, it's my last year as a student, so I was making the most of it. Anyways, Father really values education, and it was his dream for me to get the best education possible. So, he worked hard to send me to this prestigious university, and my current setup was clearly not a problem for him. I always made sure to keep in touch with my father all the time. He always sounded excited and happy to hear from me. We've always talked whenever our free times matched each other, and sometimes we also had video calls whenever we were eating. While talking about his work, my academics, our hobbies, or just being on call quietly while doing our own task. He never mentioned anything about his ailing health. He always said that everything was hunky-dory, and that he was looking forward to seeing me again. I guess he didn't want me to worry while I was thousands of miles away from him. That's why I was shocked when I received a phone call from Charlotte telling me that Father is undergoing surgery, because he did not mention a thing to me. Charlotte was crying and saying that we had to stick together. She sounded sincere and heartbroken, and at the moment I felt that she really cared for my dad. When I was able to talk with Father, I wished him a fast recovery and that I'd just finished the semester and would be back ASAP. On the last day of the semester, I received a call from Charlotte telling me that Father was dead. And she just hung up. I was absolutely devastated. I couldn't believe it. I felt like my world had just collapsed. So, I immediately booked a flight back home, hoping to see him one last time. So after 2 years, I just got back the other day, so I was really furious when Charlotte would not let me attend my own father's funeral. But when I arrived at the funeral home yesterday, I got stopped by the security guards who told me I was not welcome. I was confused and angry, and I demanded to see my dad. I said I was his son, and I had every right to be there, but they said that they were just following orders from Charlotte, and she had instructed them to keep me out. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could she do this to me? I tried to reason with the guard, but he wouldn't budge. I tried to call Charlotte, but she would not answer. I tried to text her, but she would not reply. Desperation got a hold of me, and I was furious. So, that's when I decided to force my way in, but eventually failed. Charlotte went outside and the funeral home just to see what was going on. She looked shocked and scared, and she ran towards me and tried to calm me down. She apologized and said that she did not mean to hurt me. She also added that she was just trying to fulfill my dad's last wish, which is to never see me again. That is just so absurd. Me and Dad's relationship was too great for him to wish for that, and I can't believe what I've just heard from her. Due to the commotion, some of our family, friends, and relatives came outside and were asking what's going on. They looked at me with contempt and disgust. Charlotte even said that I was causing a scene, and that she just wanted to talk to me and sort things out. They did not even offer me a hug or a word of condolence. Instead, they told me that I was not welcome at the funeral, and that I had no right to see my father's body. They said that I've abandoned him, and that I was selfish and such an ungrateful son. They said that I had no place in the family, and that I should go back where I came from. They even told me how dare I visit my father, prioritize my academics more than him. I tried to fight my way in, and I was shouting at them. I was shouting, asking how they could deny the only child of the deceased access to his own father's funeral. What I was not expecting the most was what I heard from Charlotte after. She told everybody that was the reason why my father did not want to see me, was because I was nothing more than a spoiled brat who always did what I wanted. That's why I didn't even bother staying home for the past 2 years. She even told me that I was just wasting father's money on my lavish lifestyle of partying. And I spent my father's money on expensive clothes, cars, vacations, and of course parties. I only saw him as a cash cow. Before the security escorted me away from the entrance, Charlotte called me selfish, greedy, and cruel. I could not believe what my ears were hearing. I was just too stunned to react to what she did, to the point that I was just letting security drag me away. As I was being dragged, I could hear people whispering how I was ungrateful and disrespectful of a son who only cared for myself. I was baffled by how different Charlotte was that day. That was not how I met her. Of course, there's no truth to everything that she said. I was never that person ever once in my life. But before I realized it, I was too far from the entrance and I tried to push past the guards to get inside. I just wanted to confront Charlotte and make her take back the words that she just said. But the guards were too strong and too many and told me to get lost, never come back because I was such a hassle. So I looked back and saw the faces of my family and friends, the ones who had pretended to care about me, the ones who had smiled and hugged me, and they were all there watching me be humiliated, and none of them came to help. Nobody, and I mean nobody, stood up and spoke up for me against Charlotte. And you know what the worst part is, guys? They all sided with Charlotte. I was disgusted by the way they looked at me, like I was in the wrong. Like I was the a-hole. I can't believe they bought Charlotte's lies. To this day, I still wonder why they chose to betray me. So I got up and I ran towards the door. I screamed and I cursed at them. I called them every name I could think of, and I accused them of being fake and selfish phonies. I told them that they were all a-holes and I hate them. I told them that they would regret what they've done to me. I told them that they would indeed pay for it, and after a few hours sitting outside the funeral home, hoping that they would show mercy and let me in, I went home. I have not had a good rest since I got back, and I might collapse if I stay up any longer. But before I left, I turned around and saw somebody sneaking through the exits of the funeral. It was my cousin, who's the few people I know I could trust. He grabbed me by the arm and pulled me out of the sight of the people at the funeral home, into his car to hide from everyone. That was the moment he apologized for what happened and for not coming sooner, because he was afraid of what his parents would do to him. Anyways, apparently when they asked Charlotte about what will happen to everything my dad owned, she always says that she was the sole beneficiary of my father's will, and that she had solely inherited everything that he owned, and that's why they had all sided with Charlotte. He also said that father died due to myocardial injuries after non-cardiac surgery, and the doctors were not able to revive him. They had all believed her lies. They had all turned their backs on me, their family. They all betrayed me. They had all chosen her over me, and why, you might ask? Because they thought she would get the inheritance. Because they thought that she would share the wealth with them, these fools. Because they thought that they could get something out of her. Well, you know what? Because they thought she was the winner and I was the loser. But they were all gold diggers just like her. Anyways, guys, that's why I'm here to you. I need your help. I need your opinion, I do. I mean, am I the a-hole for wanting to see my father's funeral and for hating my stepmother for denying me that? Am I the a-hole for screaming at those people? Am I the a-hole for leaving my father to study abroad and for not being there when he died? Am I the a-hole for existing and for being my father's son? Please tell me the truth. Am I the a-hole? What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So we can sense a lot of anger coming from OP, and I mean, can you blame him? Anyways, guys, we do have multiple updates to hop into, and if you guys have not subscribed to the channel, take a second, hit the subscribe button underneath this video, as it does help support the channel a lot, and that way you will always get notified whenever I upload another juicy story. Guys, let's jump into the first update. Here it is. I did not expect my post to blow up. To start with, thank you for the condolences and advice. I apologize for not responding to most of you. I'm just really tired of all this that's been happening, but rest assured that I would read through most of the stuff, and I listed down some of your advice. Many of you suggested that I go to the police and let them accompany me, but I was hesitant to do so. I didn't want to cause any more drama, chaos in my father's wake. I also did not want to annoy the people that there were, so regarding the inheritance and talking to a lawyer, I've decided to do it later because I just wanted to see my father first. I tried to call her several times, hoping to reason with her and beg for her mercy, but she never answered my calls or text. She had blocked me from every possible channel of communication, and I was just desperate to see my father one last time, to say goodbye and apologize for everything that's gone wrong between us. I knew he loved me, even though he had married that witch and allegedly left me nothing in the will. Of course, like before, I tried to force my way in, sneak in somehow, or even find somebody who could help me. I pleaded with them, telling them that I was the son of the deceased and that I had every right to be there. But you know what, guys? Once again, they did not listen to me. Well, they said that they had orders from my stepmom to keep me out. They threatened to call the police if I simply did not comply, and, well, as I was sitting there on the sidewalk just resting, I heard a car pull up in front of the funeral home. When I looked up, you won't believe what I saw. Charlotte getting out of the car, and you know what she was wearing? An all-black dress and a matching hat with a veil covering up her face, and you know what else? She had a designer handbag and a pair of sunglasses in her hands. The audacity of this woman to stand there and flaunt my father's wealth like that. Well, I ran towards her, shouting her name because I wanted to confront her. But before I could reach her, security stopped me. They grabbed me by the arms and dragged me away. Again. I resisted, of course, shouting at them to let me free, to let me talk to her, to let me see my father. I shouted at Charlotte, telling her to stop the lies, stop pretending, to stop playing the victim. I shouted at everyone, telling them that they were all wrong and stop believing her lies. So, I literally shouted until my voice went out, but not a single person believed me. Charlotte finally turned around and walked towards me. She told everybody to give us a bit of privacy, and when they left, she lifted her veil and revealed her face. She had a smug, contemptuous expression upon her face. She looked at me with disgust in her eyes, and then she finally talked. She said that those people would never believe me, not even a word. Especially since Dad left her with everything. I brought up the will because Father did not mention a single thing about it. She reached into her little pretty handbag and pulled out a piece of paper and unfolded it to show it to me. It was a legal document with a lot of words and numbers and signatures. It was my father's will. She waved it in front of me and spoke in a taunting voice. She said that was my father's will, and it says that he left everything to her. Everything. His house, his car, his belongings, his possessions, his valuables, his treasure, everything. She added that Father did not leave me a cent, not a single dollar. Not a single item, not a single thing, not a single nothing. Then she casually said that they drafted it after Father's surgery, and I was dumbfounded because how on earth did she manage to get that thing drafted while my father was recovering from surgery? I didn't know she was this cruel. After saying that, she put on her shades and walked away, leaving me alone outside. Now guys, I'm back home, thinking if I should get the police and lawyers involved, and I'm way too oppressed by them, especially Charlotte. Also, is drafting a will in the hospital even legal? I could not help but imagine how Charlotte might have celebrated Father's passing, because finally she got to have Father's money, and I hate her. Update number 2. I was able to find Father's lawyer, and I just met with him yesterday, and everything changed. You guys are right. The will Charlotte was holding on to might be invalid due to undue influence, where Father might be coerced, manipulated, or unduly influenced by Charlotte while drafting the will. Anyways, I could not care less about that because Father's lawyer revealed to me that I was the sole trustee to the trust fund that Father created, way before he and Charlotte got into a relationship. Yeah, well, that will, even if it's valid, will not take the effect. That means that I control the trust fund, which contains almost everything that Father had. However, as much as I wanted to celebrate this, I still have not seen my dad. So, on the way home, I went to the police station and inquired if they would accompany me to the funeral home, which they agreed to only do if they weren't busy and had an officer on duty. Fortunately, they were not busy a while ago and we were able to go. I specifically requested for them to not make a scene or question anyone as long as I could see my father, to which they obliged, and finally, after many restless, stressful days, I was finally able to see him. Lying there, peacefully. I can't help but cry because after 2 years I finally saw him. I just wish we were able to bond before he left and joined Mother. I love you, Dad. Rest in peace. After I stared at Father's coffin, I asked the police to leave, and I thanked them for their service. Minutes before the police left, I could hear the increasing murmurs of everybody around me, and then suddenly I felt a hand on my cheek. It was Charlotte, whom I had not seen the whole time the police were there. She slapped me, shouting at me how disrespectful I am for bringing police officers to my father's funeral. Well, at that point, I'm just too numb. I can't feel anything except for relief that I finally have seen my father. After that, I walked away and planned to go back home. As I was walking, it felt like I was wearing earmuffs because I could not understand anything everybody was saying. All I could hear were murmurs that felt like, well, it was coming from a distance. And finally, silence. So, I stood outside the funeral home for what seemed like an absolute eternity, reflecting on what happened the past few days, and I didn't know how much clarity in my mind seeing Father could bring. Just before I entered the taxi I hailed, a stranger approached me, claiming that she was Charlotte's best friend. She gave me her business card and asked me to call her because we really need to talk. Now, I'm staring at the card that she gave me, contemplating if I should actually call her or not. I guess I was just scared that this might be another ploy from Charlotte. Do you guys think that I should deliver the call? Let me know. Update number 3. I'm glad I decided to call Charlotte's friend, let's call her Amelia, because I found out something horrible about her. When I called her, she asked me to meet her in a cafe, which I agreed. That's where she told me everything. Of course, I asked her why she wanted to talk to me after all the things Charlotte said about me. She replied that she was scared of Charlotte and she could no longer bear what Charlotte was doing. First, she said that blacklisting me from my own father's funeral was horrible. Amelia was sorry for what Charlotte had done to me and told me that she tried to change her mind, but obviously to no avail. She failed because Charlotte was stubborn, cruel, and selfish. I told her it was not her fault and thanked her for trying. We continued to talk for hours. Apparently, she did not have a clue about Charlotte's relationship with my father until their marriage. Imagine how weird that was, considering that she was Charlotte's closest friend, and according to her, Charlotte had been in a long-term relationship with another man, even before she met my dad. So, everybody was shocked because they only found out about the breakup when they received the wedding invitation. Amelia even told me that Charlotte had lied to me, to my father, to everyone, and she was not who we thought she was. I was so shocked because that was such a huge claim, coming from her own best friend. So I asked for the proof. Amelia told me she had one, and she showed me photos, texts, and call logs with her supposed-to-be ex-boyfriend. Apparently, after Charlotte's breakup with the boyfriend, Amelia got close to him and formed a secret relationship with him. Scared that Charlotte might do something worse to her, and that's where she found out about the affair. Charlotte was cheating on my dad, and her lover was cheating on Amelia. And when I looked at the timeline, their affair began when father got the surgery. How dare she? So before we parted ways, Amelia told me how sorry she was for not telling me sooner. It's just that she's scared of Charlotte and what she might do to her. But she told me she wanted to help me as long as I gave her protection. And while I was writing this update, I received her email containing all the evidence that she gathered. So now, I'm just pondering about what should I do. Final update. Hey guys, I apologize for not updating sooner and leaving you all hanging. I'm doing okay now. Not great, but better. Anyways, let's go to the part where all of you are most excited to hear. After all the humiliation Charlotte had done to me and cheating that she did, I figured that she deserved it too, just like how a famous saying goes, anything that you throw comes back. All your actions are echoes. I had enough of her lies and manipulation, so there I was, preparing everything for the last day of Father's funeral. I wanted to expose Charlotte. I want her gone during Father's burial. So, the day came. I guess Charlotte was not just in the mood, and she started pestering me, going on and on about how she would kick me out of my house and that she would not give me a single cent. I tried to ignore her, but she kept following me around, whispering these insults and all these threats in my ear. How immature. Anyways, I was not going to tell everyone the will, but I've had enough. I told everyone how she had manipulated my father into drafting a will, that she had no shame because she forced my father to write a will favoring her when he was in a very bad mental state and was just trying to recover from surgery. I told everyone that there was in fact a trust fund, so her will wasn't even valid. I told them all about her affair. And when I said that, she turned pale, then she turned red as a tomato. She screamed at me, called me a liar, a brat, and all sorts of other names. She was facing everyone, trying to get sympathy, telling me that I had no right to accuse her of anything, that I had no evidence to back up my silly claims, and that she would sue me for defamation of character, fraud, and of course, well, the worst one of all, forgery. She even said that she would make sure that I would rot in jail, and that I would never see a dime of my father's fortune. While she was saying all these nonsensical words, I pressed the bottom of the remote control in my pocket. The TV that was previously showing my father's picture, it switched to a nice little handy-dandy slideshow of screenshots, photos, and videos of Charlotte and her lover. You know, the one that Amelia sent me. Guys, the room fell so silent, except for the sound of Charlotte's heavy breathing, as people were too stunned and disgusted by what they saw. Charlotte tried to defend herself, and she did a decent job, but nobody believed her, and all she could see were angry, betrayed faces. She realized the gig is up. She's been exposed, and regret could be seen all over her face. She starts to cry and beg for forgiveness in front of everyone, but it was too late. She was humiliated, and she left without saying another word. After she left, I told the others that those who did not stand up for me and blindly sided with Charlotte had no right to come and ask me for help anymore. They all deserved to suffer. Well, I felt satisfied, but I was also sad and angry. I had avenged my father, but I already lost him. I wished that he had never met Charlotte and that she had never entered our lives. I wish things were different, but they weren't. Moving on, my father was finally buried. Charlotte is now serving her time in jail because I sued her for everything that she did to me. Thankfully, she had no money to bail herself out, and as she was getting her sentence, she looked at me with hatred and fear, and I looked back with contempt and pity. I swore to make her life a living hell and to make her pay for what she's done to me. I also do have some good news for you guys, though. I'll end it on that. I finally graduated from college. I had fulfilled my father's wish and made him proud. I plan on taking a master's degree course in business so I can handle father's business properly. So guys, that's it. Before I end this last update, I want to say thank you for all your help. It's always been a pleasure to be one of you. I would say OP was able to get the absolute perfect definition of revenge. revenge against Charlotte because oh boy did she deserve it. I mean, the master manipulation level this girl had was crazy. She convinced OP that, hey, I'm your buddy, yada yada yada, and then she strikes when she sees the opening and tries to take every single thing from the inheritance. And guys, you know what? I saw it coming a mile away. Luckily, it did not work out in her favor. OP was able to catch all the evidence, find out that she's not only manipulating OP's dad, but she's also a dirty cheater, and guess what? She gets exposed in the best revenge way possible. Everybody knows about her, and she ends up going to jail for fraud, just like she deserved. Guys, I want to know what you would have done in this position, so drop it down below. Let's talk about this one. My name's Mr. Reddito. Thank you for joining me on today's video, and if you guys want more daily drama, go ahead, subscribe to the channel. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.